Right, we now come to business questions. Shadow Leader of the House, Jessie Norman.
Will the Leader of the House give us the forthcoming business?
Leader.
I shall. The business for the week commencing the 10th of February includes Monday the 10th of February, second reading of the Border Security, Asylum and Immigration Bill. Tuesday the 11th of February, consideration of Lord's message to the Water Special Measures Bill, Lords, followed by consideration in committee and remaining stages of the Arbitration Bill, Lords, followed by debate on motions to approve the draft neonatal care leave and miscellaneous amendments regulations 2025 and the draft statutory neonatal care pay general regulations 2025. Wednesday the 12th of February, second reading of the Data Use and Access Bill, Lords. Thursday the 13th of February, general debate on LGBT+ History Month. The House will rise for the February recess at the conclusion of business on Thursday the 13th of February and return on Monday the 24th of February. The provisional business for the week commencing the 24th of February will include Monday the 24th of February, remaining stages of the Crown Estates Bill, Lords. Colleagues may also wish to be aware that the business on Wednesday the 5th of March is expected to be the Estimates Day, first allotted day.
Jessie Norman.
Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Speaker. This week we have seen a government that talks about growth but has proved itself unwilling to support transformational investment at the AstraZeneca plant in Liverpool. At the same time, it appears keen to expand the sums being paid in relation to the Chagos Islands to a number some 250 times larger than that being considered for AstraZeneca. And I wonder how many people, I can see on the opposite bench the degree of shame and embarrassment about that and the concern that they have that local investment in important cities in this country is being deprived as a result. In business questions, Mr. Speaker, on November the 28th, I raised the issue of the assisted dying bill and highlighted a host of procedural defects in the way in which it was being rushed through the House by the government. The bill was published barely 2 weeks before the vote at second reading, as the House will recall. No impact assessment or legal issues analysis had been published. The promoter of the bill had circulated a document purporting to answer questions which actually left a host of important questions entirely untouched. Those questions included the impact of the bill on the medical profession and the relationship between medical staff and patients, and on the provision and regulation of the different drugs and drug cocktails required. They included questions about the involvement of the judiciary in the process and the balance of probabilities test for coercion which the bill proposed. It was not surprising that the bill was and is being opposed by the Health and Justice Secretaries, with the former saying, "I do not think that palliative care, end-of-life care in this country, is in a condition yet where we are giving people the freedom to choose without being coerced by the lack of support available." I'm sorry to say, Mr. Speaker, that the Leader of the House responded to my remarks in a very patronising way, suggesting that it was somehow inappropriate and political for me to raise these matters at all. Of course, that was nonsense. I was not taking and do not take a position on the underlying issue, and the whole purpose of business questions is to highlight and debate the passage of legislation through this House. But the Leader's defensiveness was itself revealing. It showed the extent to which the government is quietly and wrongly standing behind this private member's bill. Now, Mr. Speaker, if we fast forward 2 months, what do we find? A Supreme Court Justice has told the Bill Committee that it is not clear what the judge's role is supposed to be in this legislation, has called the judicial protection largely illusory, and echoed many other legal experts in highlighting the lack of capacity in the High Court. The government's own chief medical officer has specifically warned the Bill Committee that the NHS should not be rushed into becoming what would amount to a death service, and said that most doctors would not wish to take part in the final stages of an assisting dying process, and emphasised the medical vagueness of the idea of qualifying people as terminally ill. And we've heard about the serious potential misdiagnosis through the horrendous case of Peter Sefton Williams, who was incorrectly diagnosed with motor neurone disease and given as little as 6 months to live. Mr. Speaker, these are not my words. They are testimony on the bill from leading experts across a range of fields. But all this has been made much worse by the rushed and secretive way in which the Bill Committee itself has been handled. The membership is disproportionately weighted towards supporters of the bill. The schedule has been highly congested, with back-to-back sittings that do not allow MPs to prepare. Some of the sessions have been held in private. Attempts have been made to prevent key institutions such as the Royal College of Psychiatrists from appearing in front of the committee at all. The effect of all these measures is to impede and inhibit external and internal scrutiny. And we now hear that the impact assessment will now not be published before the report stage of the bill. All these things are shocking attempts to undermine and short-circuit the proper scrutiny of the legislation. The Leader of the House has said in terms that the government is not supporting the legislation. She should therefore have an undiluted interest in ensuring that such an important and controversial bill is properly handled. After all, she, more than any other, is supposed to be the custodian of proper parliamentary scrutiny of legislation. So will she now act to address these obvious failures, or will she stick to her position that everything is fine and there is nothing to see here?
Leader of the House.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Can I just, at the beginning of my contribution, just start with a couple of very business question updates. After the member for Aylesbury asked me to join her in congratulating Bake Off star Dillon Bachelet, they both joined me this week, Mr. Speaker, to taste some delicious cakes in my leader's office Bake Off. Dillon is not only an inspiration to young people from Aylesbury, but I can report he's got extremely good taste because he chose my lemon drizzle as the winner. But can I also thank the member for Wolverhampton West for coming to see me this week with a copy of a Stone Roses record after we exchanged nice words about Revolver records in his constituency recently. I hope that members across the House can see I am very open to nice invitations celebrating constituencies and communities. This week marks LGBT+ History Month, a chance for us to reflect and remember the contribution of the LGBT community and the discrimination they still too often face. The Labour Party is proud to be the party of equality, abolishing Section 28, introducing civil partnerships, the Gender Recognition Acts and the Equality Act, amongst other things. Turning to the contribution from the Shadow Leader, first of all, let me just take some of his misleading allegations head on when it comes to the process around the assisted dying bill. As he is well aware, this House passed with a majority, a clear majority, that this bill should proceed through second reading to committee stage, and that is the will of this House. That committee is now convening, and in an unprecedented procedure for a private member's bill has been taking written and oral evidence to begin with, and will begin now many weeks of line-by-line scrutiny of that bill, which is, again, unprecedented. It will be a lengthy committee. The makeup of that committee, as is in the standing orders, Mr. Speaker, the makeup of that committee reflects the vote at second reading of this House and also reflects the party makeup of the House, and many would argue that it's actually been overly conscious of that. This government, as I have said at this dispatch box on a number of occasions, Mr. Speaker, has a responsibility. While we have a neutral position on the principles of the bill, we have a responsibility to ensure that any bill that is passed by this House is workable and operable. And that is the role that we will be playing through the ministers that are representing the government on that committee. I have to say, Mr. Speaker, I think it is extremely regrettable and ill-advised of the Shadow Leader to use his very privileged position at the dispatch box today to give such a political, one-sided and misleading account of what is a very difficult, technical, important issue of conscience to the country and to this House. And that actually, that on the day of second reading and since, I think that every colleague, maybe apart from the Shadow Leader, across this House recognises that we and our procedures showed themselves at their very best in debating this important matter. But I do want to say to the honourable gentleman, maybe he could have chosen his moment at the dispatch box today to mark another important anniversary, Mr. Speaker, because it may have passed other people's notice, but next Monday actually will mark 100 days since the Leader of the Opposition took office as Leader of the Opposition, and I wondered how he thought that was actually going. I'm not sure why he's not here today celebrating all her brilliant achievements, but maybe it's because, like the rest of her leadership, they've gone completely unnoticed. Oh no, sorry, Mr. Speaker, that we have learnt a few things about the Leader of the Opposition. We do now know what she's against. She's against maternity leave, the triple lock, abolishing hereditary peers, our children's bill that will protect young people from abusers, rights and security for workers, investment in the NHS, and sandwiches for lunch, Mr. Speaker. But she has got a couple of things right, I would say. She admitted that her party made mistakes in government, and indeed they did. She accepted they had no plan for growth. And now, despite saying there would be no new policy until 2027, I see this morning she's finally come up with one. But perhaps I would gently advise the honourable gentleman that until they accept they got it badly, badly wrong on immigration and that all their rhetoric and targets in the last Parliament were just hot air, I don't think anyone is going to take her ideas seriously. But 100 days is normally a moment for reflection and consideration, so perhaps he might want to reflect on that and agree that the party opposite picked a bit of a dud.
Mayor Ellis.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As the chair of the APPG for Babies, I've had the privilege over the last few months to meet leaders from across society who have incredible passion and energy for the role of babies from pregnancy to age 2 in how we, in all government policy. So would the leader consider a debate to consider the impact of all angles on government policy on babies from pregnancy to age 2, given the significant impact this time has on long-term health and wellbeing outcomes?
Yeah. Well, can I thank her for raising this important issue from all her campaigning on these matters. I know that she takes them incredibly seriously, and this government does take the early years really important, and we also, the issues around maternity, paternity leave and making sure that parents can do both their jobs and their other jobs as parents, but the early years really are the most important in a child's life, and I look forward to working with her on that.
Goldman, Liberal Democrat spokesperson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'd like to draw the attention of the House to my register of interests. Mr. Speaker, yesterday, the Secretary of State for Housing, Communities and Local Government made a statement to this House in which she said that she had agreed to delay the local elections in some areas for 1 year. I have to confess that I'm a bit confused, Mr. Speaker, because my local council, Essex County Council, is one of those areas. And in the briefing papers for the extraordinary full council meeting of Essex County Council that took place on the 10th of January, it says, and I quote, "The leader is minded to support the proposal to postpone the elections in order to maximise capacity for the transition process, whilst noting that this would lead to a 2 or 3 year postponement. So rather longer than the 1 year the Secretary of State announced yesterday. Whilst noting that Essex County Councillors are usually elected for a 4-year term and that a postponement, really a cancellation of elections for 3 years, would be extending their terms of office by 75%, would the Leader of the House grant a debate in government time on the principles of democracy in the United Kingdom?
Leader.
Well, can I first of all thank the Honourable Lady for what she raised with me last week in terms of the PCSOs in Essex, and I'm sure that she and many other colleagues across Essex will be pleased with the news subsequent to her raising this last week. I'm sure not unrelated that in fact those PCSOs have now been saved from the axe, and that in fact the government has doubled the money available for neighbourhood policing last Friday as well. She raises the issues of elections and the elections that were not going to happen, now not going to happen in Essex. We set a very high bar for the postponement of any elections this year. They are a postponement for 1 year, and in her case in Essex, it's in order that the Greater Essex Mayoral authority can be established and elections for that mayoral authority to take place in May 2026. That is absolutely the intention. And I would just say to the Honourable Lady that I know these changes do take time and they can cause difficulties in local areas, but the devolution revolution that is coming her way through those changes will bring extra jobs, growth, better services, better transport and more power to her communities in Essex, and I hope she'll welcome that.
Gurinder Joseph.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Firstly, can I welcome the Prime Minister's recent comments about supporting and enabling the expansion of nuclear power stations in the UK through small modular reactors. Whilst the science and technology is well proven, there are other aspects that are required to be developed alongside, including provision of appropriate grade nuclear fuel and a permanent solution for nuclear waste. In recent days, I've met with representatives of Urenco, a specialist uranium enrichment and fuel provider, and nuclear waste services, who are developing plans for UK's first geological disposal facility. Would the Leader of the House make time for the debate to ensure we give consideration to all aspects of the nuclear jigsaw to ensure a joined-up and sustainable energy future?
Well, can I thank him for raising issues around the nuclear industry and nuclear waste disposal in particular. We do need to put some rocket boosters under nuclear power in this country. It is vital to our future energy security, but he's absolutely right that we have to do that alongside rigorous safety standards and issues around waste disposal and other matters. I will ensure that he's updated and that the House is kept updated on these important matters.
Bob Blackman.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. In addition to the business that the Leader has announced, in Westminster Hall on the 11th of Tuesday the 11th of February, there'll be a debate on the cost of energy. On Thursday the 13th, the debate on HIV testing week, followed by a debate on prevention of cardiovascular disease. And when we return after the recess, on Tuesday the 25th, there'll be a debate on maternity services, and on Thursday the 27th, a debate on rural crime, followed by a debate on women's health. I'm grateful to the Leader for announcing the date for Estimates Day debates. I'm aware that at least 6 select committees are considering putting a request in. For new colleagues, this is an opportunity to debate the work and spending of a government department. It doesn't have to come via a select committee, but the Backbench Business Committee has put the application form on our website, and applications will close because of the recess on Friday the 25th of Friday the 21st of February, and we'll consider the applications on Tuesday the 25th of February. Now, we have a queue, Madam Deputy Speaker, of debates for the Chamber. In fact, we could allocate every Thursday through past May, as things stand. And I note that the Leader has not yet announced what business will be allowed for the Backbench Business Committee after the recess, but we have pre-allocated, in the event that we've got Thursday the 27th, which would be a debate on the third year anniversary of the war in Ukraine, followed by a debate on St David's Day. If we are offered Thursday the 6th, we'll have a debate on International Women's Day, followed by a debate on political finance. I suggest that the Leader would be well advised not to upset any of those sponsors. Now, Madam Deputy Speaker, I know that the Leader does excellent work in advising government departments on responding not only to the questions we raise in this chamber, but also to letters and questions that are raised. However, to give an example of what has happened, the Honourable Member for Hornsey and Prime Barnet met this week with a group of Hindus from Bangladesh because of the atrocities that have been caused in Bangladesh. Now, I raised this with business questions, and Mr Speaker allowed an urgent question on this subject the week following. I think it would be courtesy that the Minister would give a statement to the House on what action she is taking following that action. Equally, could I gently ask the Leader to make sure that when we ask questions, and she diligently writes to the departments, we actually get answers to the questions that we're asking, because both the quality and length of time it takes to get a question answered seems very, very poor at the moment.
House.
Well, can I thank the chair of the Backbench Business Committee, as ever, for both advertising his forthcoming business, also advertising the how the Estimates Day works and how important that is, especially for new colleagues for whom this will be the first such occasion. And of course, I absolutely hear his lobbying about the allocation of days, which of course I will take very seriously, as I always do, especially in relation to International Women's Day, because I don't want to upset the sisterhood by any means, so I will not do that. And he has raised and does continue to raise many issues relating to Hindu community, in this case in Bangladesh, and he was successful in getting some responses there. I will raise with the Foreign Office about whether there is further information that could be brought forward as a statement and that the House is kept updated. He is right to say I take extremely seriously the timely but also the proper response that I expect to see from ministers in relation to parliamentary questions and to correspondence, and I will always chase these. I do keep a track of the letters that I send in after business questions and also things that are raised with me. I do track these and I do take them up robustly. What I would just gently say to him and to other colleagues is we've seen an over 50% increase in the number of parliamentary written questions that have gone in since the election, and a huge increase in correspondence as well. So there is a bit of time that's needed to do that, but if anybody wants to raise with me, I will chase those letters, and I have got quite a good track record myself of getting responses when they're not otherwise forthcoming.
Grahame Morris.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I'm sure you're aware, Madam Deputy Speaker, and what the Leader of the House is, that we're currently undergoing a digital refresh of computer equipment and laptops here in the House of Commons. I was rather disturbed to learn that the equipment that's handed in is crushed and sent to landfill. Digital poverty is a multifaceted issue which impacts all aspects of life. For younger children, educational platforms can't be accessed. Job opportunities are harder to access because 90% of jobs are only advertised online. For older people, healthcare services, support and information are all severely restricted without digital access. Therefore, could we have a debate on what we can do, not just as a government, but this House too, to increase access to the internet and digital services that are essential to lifting people out of poverty?
Well, he raises a really important issue, that the digital divide and digital inclusion is absolutely vital as we see more and more services moving to digital platforms and as we are in the digital age. And if they are not accessible by everybody, then they're not able to serve everybody, and that's something we should absolutely address. I'm not aware of the issue he raises in relation to the digital hardware of the House not being able to be wiped and reused rather than going to landfill, but I will look at that immediately after business question and get back to him on what more can be done.
Esther McVey.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. I'm hugely concerned, my constituents are hugely concerned, as too is the Cheshire Police Force, about the rising numbers of serious sexual attacks by those illegally in this country and those who've been housed in immigration centres in Cheshire. So can I ask the Leader of the House for a debate on that rising risk in Cheshire, a review on legislation to remove foreign offenders, and the risk assessments that are done about the threat posed by these individuals who are placed in accommodation centres in Cheshire?
Leader of the House.
Well, can I thank her for raising this? And I am aware of some of these incidents that have happened in Cheshire and how alarming they must be for local community and for the local police force. Absolutely, totally abhorrent and unacceptable in all of those cases. She's right to say that there is a range of issues that can be taken further. That's why we've brought forward the Borders Bill, which will make returning those who are here illegally and those who have committed crimes when they're here, making returning them much easier, and we are making great strides in that. It's also why we're taking real action on violence against women and girls and making sure that the criminal sanctions there are appropriate, and it's also why we are putting more police on the streets as well. But there are also particular issues with the Asylum Hotel and the companies that run those as well, which I take up for her.
Paul Waugh.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Like much of the rest of the country, we have a housing emergency in Rochdale with 22,000 people on the waiting list and many, many children living in temporary accommodation that's unfit for family life and also costs the taxpayer a fortune. So will she agree with me that while the budget's £500 million of new funding for affordable and social housing was very welcome and long overdue, we need a debate in government time on the need to ensure the coming spending review can ensure more stable, secure homes like the council house I grew up in?
Yeah. Well, he's absolutely right, and I hear the Secretary of State for Housing talking about this regularly, and she rightly makes the point that council housing used to be seen as the poor relation, and these days it's actually a luxury to get a council house, and that's why, as part of our target to build 1.5 million new homes, a huge boost in social and new council housing is absolutely at the heart of meeting that target, because as the Honourable Gentleman says, making sure people have a secure, affordable home is the bedrock to a successful life.
Leigh Dillon.
Speaker. As the Leader of the House will be aware, community infrastructure levy is a requirement to make a contribution towards essential infrastructure. However, in West Berkshire, Waverley, Horsham and Bracknell Forest, there is evidence where exemptions should have been given, but they weren't, resulting in residents being charged incorrectly and then chased by debt collectors for recovery of those fines. So will the Leader of the House allow debate in government time to discuss this important issue, and also congratulate Councillor Jeff Brooks, the Leader of West Berkshire Council, who has so far refunded £200,000 back to residents who were incorrectly charged?
Leader of the House.
Well, I'm really sorry to hear of his constituents who've been incorrectly charged and then chased down for those debts as well. But I'm pleased to hear that some of that is now being put right. I know that there is a debate in Westminster Hall on the regulation of the bailiff sector, which he may want to raise some of those issues at that. But I will happily raise what he's raised with me today with ministers and make sure he gets a full reply.
Leigh Ingham.
Very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. Like most MPs, one of my favourite things to do is visit schools in my constituency. And recently I was at Sir Grahame Balfour School in Stafford, and one of the students there spoke to me very passionately about the importance of sports and PE education in schools, because it benefits not only physical health but mental health. So, inspired by his campaigning, would the Leader agree to a debate on improving access to PE and sports in schools?
Leader of the House.
Well, can I thank her for raising the issues that were raised with her on her recent schools visit. She's absolutely right to say that PE and physical education plays a vital role, not just in ensuring that our young people have access to a broad curriculum that can help them better succeed in education, but it's also critical to mental health, physical health and the preventative sort of work that we are doing, and that's why this government is committed to it. I thought it would make a very good debate were she to apply for one.
Sir Bernard Jenkin.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Given that the Deputy Prime Minister's announcement yesterday is widely believed to herald not just the widespread cancellation of democratic elections, but the introduction of far more powers for government to centralise decision-making and impose it on local authorities, a massive reduction in the number of councillors representing local people in local authorities, the abolition of whole tiers of local authorities, which is not for which the government actually has no electoral mandate, on the basis of putative savings for which there is no proof, so that the chaos of this reorganisation will have to be paid for by cuts in public services. When is the government going to provide a full day's debate on these proposals for devolution and local government reorganisation across the country on a scale which we haven't seen for some 50 years, and certainly merits a full day's debate and a vote at the end of that debate.
House.
Well, I'm sorry the honourable gentleman doesn't welcome our real commitment to devolution, ensuring that local communities have more power over the things that affect them, their local services, transport, economic development, and really joining that up in a way that provides sort of strategic benefit to those areas. I respect the honourable gentleman, but I would gently say to him that under the government that he supported, local government was absolutely hollowed out after years and years of austerity, with local council after local council going bankrupt month after month. We've given a record settlement, a long-term settlement to local government, and alongside that, we are unashamedly pushing power out to communities. We've had several statements to the House already. There will be a bill forthcoming that enacts many of these measures. There will be ample time for debate, but I will ensure the House is kept fully up to date.
Sharon Hodgson.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. Tomorrow is the one-year anniversary of the Hughes report, the publication of the Hughes report, which found that the children left disabled by valproate and women injured by pelvic mesh implants for life should be given urgent financial compensation. 1 year on, Madam Deputy Speaker, we are yet to see an official government response to that report. The Leader of the House will know how important it is that women are listened to by healthcare professionals, and surely she agrees that when they are dismissed and left physically damaged by those who are supposed to have protected them, then financial redress is deserved. So will she grant a debate in government time to allow MPs from across this House, we all have constituents who've raised this with us, to discuss the recommendations of the all-important Hughes report to mark this significant occasion?
Leader of the House.
Well, can I thank her for raising this and for her many, many years of really important campaigning and leadership on these issues, which I know has been a great comfort to the many women, not just women, but those affected by this scandal. And the Hughes report, as she said, was a really important watermark and line in the sand. I will certainly now inquire as to where the government response is to that report and make sure that the House is updated at the earliest opportunity.
Wendy Morton.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. As we make the important shift to more renewable energy, which we know is needed, there are a number of concerns across the House regarding the siting and appropriateness of battery energy storage systems, including in my own constituency, where we've been left shocked by the decision of the planning inspector to green light an application against the democratic will of the council for a BESS on the green belt at Chapel Lane. Could we have a debate in government time to enable us all to air our views and concerns around battery energy storage systems?
Leader of the House.
Well, could I first of all thank her for recently raising with me some matters of correspondence, which I know were very lengthy in getting a reply. After I've raised that, I have now been assured she should have received those replies, yes, in the last couple of days. So thank her for doing that. I know she's been raising this issue of the battery storage application in her constituency. She will, I'm sure, recognise that I can't comment on a specific application because the inspectorate has listened to the appeal and their findings are available on their portal. But this government makes no apology that we need to get the infrastructure that we need into our communities as well as the housing, and that's why we're taking the action that we are in reclassifying some suitable green belt as grey belt, but we do have some really strict criteria. I will ensure, as we have done so far, but I will continue to ensure there is ample time to debate these important matters to the House.
Josh Dean.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I hear regularly from parents in Hertford and Stortford whose children are struggling to access the mental health support that they deserve, in some cases waiting months or even years for their first appointment with CAMHS. I know they will be encouraged by this Labour government's commitment to cut waiting times, to put mental health support in schools and to open a network of Young Futures hubs. So as we mark Children's Mental Health Week this week, can I ask if the Leader of the House will allow time for a statement on the government's progress to improve mental health support for children and young people. Thank you.
Leader of the House.
Can I absolutely join him in marking Children's Mental Health Week this week. He's absolutely right to raise these important matters, and the mental health services, especially for young people, have been the poor relation for far too long. I think all of us as constituency MPs, as parents and as others can recognise that the mental health crisis in our young people really deserves the attention it needs, and that's why we are recruiting more mental health workers. But I think this would make a very good topic for a debate.
Sarah Dyke.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Next week is Mind Your Head Week, which aims to raise awareness of mental health challenges facing the farming community. The theme this year is positivity, resilience and love. Women in farming occupy many roles, both on and off the farm, balancing childcare, caring responsibilities and non-farming work. They often manage gender equalities within agriculture and some cases of victims of domestic violence and rural crime. Yet their voices and mental health struggles are rarely heard. But a new study carried out by the University of Exeter will look into shedding light on this important issue. So will the Leader of the House grant us a debate on government time on the mental health of women in farming?
Well, she's taken the opportunity today, which is a very important opportunity to raise this issue, which I'm sure will be of interest to many across the House, that the role that women play in farming and how vital their role is, but also some of the challenges that they face, often in silence or without recognition. I'm sure this would make a really good topic for a debate, but she's certainly used her opportunity today to raise them.
Giles Atwell.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Recently, I met with my constituents in Ilford South, who've been increasingly concerned about the anti-Hindu violence in Bangladesh. Since last August, there have been reports of over 2,000 incidents of violence, most of which have been targeted against the minority Hindu community. I've seen further disturbing reports of the arrest and continuing custody of the former leader of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, Chinmoy Krishna Das. These reports are deeply perturbing. The UK champions freedom of religion for all, and no one should be at risk of violence or targeted because of their beliefs. I note the response from the Minister for Indo-Pacific in December of this issue. Would the leader update the House or ask the Foreign Secretary to make a statement on the assessment he has made and the action his department has taken to engage with the new government in Bangladesh so that they can support the right of people from all religions to live freely? Thank you.
Well, this government takes extremely seriously the issues that he raised, and that the Minister was recently in Bangladesh, where he she made absolutely clear that the Bangladesh government should take greater steps in the protection of religious minorities. The anti-Hindu violence that he describes in Bangladesh has now been raised already twice in this session and gets raised with me many times. So I will ensure that the relevant minister does update the House at the earliest opportunity about these matters.
David Mundell.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. And can I echo the call from the Honourable Lady for Washington and Gateshead South for the Government to bring forward a response to the Hughes report on sodium valproate and its use. My constituent, Charlie Bethune, has not only been an incredible carer to his daughter Autumn, but he's been a doughty campaigner on this issue. And today, Madam Deputy Speaker, he's in the Scottish Parliament raising this very issue. But his concern is that given that sodium valproate was diagnosed across the United Kingdom, that there should be a United Kingdom response to those who have suffered, and he is concerned that there may be a differential response in Scotland. So when the Secretary of State for Health makes a statement, can he also seek to coordinate with the devolved administrations so that we have a unified response?
Well, can I take this opportunity to also thank him for all his tireless campaigning on these matters as well, working with his constituent and others over many years. I will absolutely ensure that we do have an update to the House in response to the Hughes report and issues around sodium valproate. And when we do that, make sure that they cover UK-wide and that there is coordination. And I'll get back to him on that.
Rosie Writing.
Deputy Speaker. In the 1950s, Kettering had 5 cinemas, but after Odeon closed its doors last week, we now have none. Our swimming pool was built in 1984 and is in desperate need of investment. And Kettering's art gallery and museum are both currently closed and have been for some time. Constituencies like Kettering have been hard hit by the Conservatives' cultural vandalism, and my constituents are missing out as a result. So would the Leader of the House grant time for a debate on the huge importance of access to local culture and sports?
The House.
Well, she's absolutely right that access to culture and sports is at the heart of thriving communities and happy places and happy people, and I'm really sorry to hear about what's happening in Kettering. She'll know that we do have a manifesto commitment to replace the community right to bid with a strengthened right to buy assets of community value, and I think that would help in cases like this. But access to local culture and sports gets raised with me regularly at Business Question, and notwithstanding that the Backbench Business Committee is oversubscribed, I do think it would make an extremely good topic of backbench business.
Wendy Chamberlain.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I should declare an interest as Chair of the APPG for Scotch whisky. Scotch whisky is obviously a high user of UK-produced glass and is trying hard to increase its recycling. And there is cross-party support for the extended producer responsibilities that are coming forward. Indeed, I was on the Delegated Legislation Committee. But through the APPG, we've heard concerns about the practicalities of the extended producer responsibility, in that it is risking becoming a tax rather than actually developing the circular economy that we all want to see. So, having been a Scottish MP that has seen the collapse of the DRS scheme, where there were concerns from businesses, can we have a debate on government time to ensure that we get the right outcomes from extended producer responsibility?
Leader of the House.
Well, can I thank her for raising these important issues for the Scottish whisky industry and other producers, extensive producers of glass in this country. We did recently have a debate on the floor of the House about this scheme, and I know that some of these issues were raised then, but I will ensure that ministers have heard her concerns about extending producer liabilities, and I'll get her a full response.
Matt Weston.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. In the week that we're reminded of the tragedy of the Grenfell Tower, we also learn about this scandal, which is of companies issuing false fire safety certificates, these EWS1s as they're referred. I understand there is no such thing as an official register for these certificates, yet tens of thousands of homeowners are affected by this, now facing properties that are uninsurable and unsaleable. So can I ask the Leader for a debate in government time to discuss this scandal and the need for an official register of these certificates?
Leader of the House.
Well, absolutely. Can I thank him for raising this? And as a constituency MP myself, with many, many tall buildings in Manchester Central, I am all too familiar, unfortunately, with the issues around the issuing of EWS1 forms and the whole risk assessment industry that surrounds and has grown since the Grenfell Tower. So he can rest assured that the government is taking these issues incredibly seriously. We did issue a remediation safety action plan just before Christmas, but I will ensure there is ample time for the House to debate these matters.
John Lamont.
Thank you very much. Applications for battery storage facilities are flooding into the Scottish borders. There's also plans for a 50-mile massive route of pylons across our unspoilt landscape. Local residents are concerned about the impact on their communities and also on the natural environment. They feel that the Labour and SNP governments will not protect them. Now, I know the Leader of the House looks for invitations, so will the Leader of the House visit the Scottish borders to come and meet some of the local residents so she can see for herself how these developments are going to impact on these communities, impact is going to have on the environment as well?
Leader of the House.
Well, can I thank him for that? I think one of his previous invitations was to Centre Park, so I might take him up on that one. But he does regularly invite me to his constituency. But look, he raises a very serious matter to his constituents, and I think we all have to recognise there is a difficult balance to strike here. There are difficult issues when we need to get the infrastructure that we need to get us to a clean energy superpower, which will lower bills, it will give us job security and, crucially, energy security. But that is going to mean some difficult decisions around the grid, around pylons and so on, and we have to balance those, which is why we are exploring where communities need the infrastructure in their locality, that they benefit from the lower bills that would bring.
David Williams.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Back in 2021, residents in Kidsgrove were promised a portfolio of projects as part of the Kidsgrove Town deal. To date, residents have experienced delay and confusion. They rightly want more openness and transparency from Newcastle Underlyne Borough Council. Would the Leader of the House make time for a debate on the delivery of town deals so that local people can see real delivery and not more delays?
Leader of the House.
Well, I'm really sorry to hear about the challenges with the Kidsgrove town deal that he raises. I think what we've seen with these types of town deal models is a kind of bidding war, a competitive dog-eat-dog kind of situation that is not working and not delivering for communities. And that's why we're putting record levels of investment into communities through local government funding and moving towards core long-term stable funding so that local communities like his in Kidsgrove can have that long-term certainty of funding.
Cooper.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. The government's expressed political support for Heathrow Airport expansion has sparked concerns that the government may be getting ready to expand Luton Airport too, despite the fact that the government's own climate advisors say that no net expansion should go ahead, or no net expansion of airports should go ahead until there is a climate emissions framework in place. So could I ask the Leader of the House, in terms of the business of the House, whether any ministers have indicated that they intend to publish a climate emissions framework, and if so, when? And in due course, may I ask the Leader of the House to use every lever in her power to ensure that this House can have a debate on that emissions framework before any new airport expansions are given the green light?
Leader of the House.
Well, can I thank you for raising that? And she'll be aware that the application, like the one from Luton Airport, are to be considered in a sort of quasi-judicial capacity by the Secretary of State for Transport. So it wouldn't be appropriate for me to comment directly on that. But I can assure her that any decisions around airport expansion would be taken in the context of our legally binding emissions targets. They will be taken into a whole range of criteria that she will be aware of, but I will absolutely ensure that any such decisions are brought to this House first for her scrutiny and others.
Douglas McAllister.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. On Sunday, my West Dumbartonshire constituent Jagtar Singh Johal will celebrate his 38th birthday. This will be his 8th birthday held in solitary confinement, arbitrarily detained in an Indian prison. Can the Leader of the House raise his case with her Cabinet colleagues and ensure that our government continues to raise Jagtar's case at the highest levels of the Indian government and help accelerate my constituent's return home to his family in West Dumbartonshire?
Leader of the House.
Well, can I thank him for raising the difficult and tragic case of Jagtar Singh Johal, as he says, who's now been in prison in India. We have raised this issue with the Prime Minister Modi on a number of occasions, and we do also, on every occasion, underline the need for an urgent resolution. I will ensure that the Honourable Gentleman has a full update from ministers, and if that's necessary, bringing that to the floor of the House.
Andrew Rossendale.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I would like the Leader of the House to know that a number of my constituents in Romford have contacted me regarding both the prescribing of antidepressant medicine in the UK and iatrogenic harm caused to patients from antidepressant medication. Many are now diagnosed and suffering with conditions including post-withdrawal syndrome and post-SSRA human dysfunction. My right honourable friend, the member for Tatton, held a Westminster Hall debate on this very issue only last year. However, given the severity of the concerns raised, will she consider a full debate in government time on this very important matter?
Leader of the House.
Well, I think every MP in the House would recognise constituents being in touch with us about the use of antidepressants and how they're prescribed and some of the effects and whether they're fully understood by those that they are given to. I think this is a really important issue which I'll make sure he's got a full response for, but I do think it would make a very good topic for a debate.
Emma Lewell-Buck.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. My right honourable friend knows how much I value and indeed enjoy our hospitality industry in South Shields. As a major employer and contributing over £80 million to our local economy, we must keep them in business. But she will know that many of them are worried about upcoming tax changes. I know that this government is committed to supporting businesses. So can we have an urgent debate on how we can mitigate any of these impacts and changes on the hospitality industry?
Leader of the House.
Well, can I join her in supporting the hospitality industry, which I also fully support, and I recognise the unease and the worry that many in the industry have about how difficult their businesses are at the moment, as we've seen sort of demand fall over recent years and costs go up as inflation went through the roof under the previous government. The steps we've taken in the budget, which were difficult steps we had to take in order to fix the foundations of the economy and make sure we had the investment going into our public services, which is much needed. We have tried to mitigate those as much as possible for small businesses, and in fact 50% of the 50% of businesses, the 50% smallest businesses won't pay any additional national insurance contributions. In fact, many will see cuts, and I hope to work with her and others to continue to reassure hospitality sector.
Tom Gordon.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Last week I met with the Harrogate branch of the National Autistic Society. I heard first-hand stories about issues with getting diagnoses, trying to get help and support into employment, and other issues that people with autism are facing, including stigma. So will the Leader of the House bring forward a debate in government time to talk about the challenges that autistic people face and how we can do more to support them?
Leader of the House.
Well, can I welcome his meeting with the Harrogate Autistic Society, and the issues around autism and other SEND issues get raised in these sessions very, very regularly. We have had some debates already, and this government is putting more support into special educational needs, for example, and through local authorities as well, which could help support those in his community. But I will ensure that there is ample time for us to debate these issues as things move forward.
Andy Slaughter.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. Can we have a statement on knife crime, and in particular the proposal for knives to be sold with rounded or blunted tips to reduce the risk of death or serious injury if they're used with a weapon? Will the Leader of the House join me in congratulating Idris Elba, whose powerful documentary, Our Knife Crime Crisis, raised the issue last week, as well as a group of judges, surgeons, psychiatrists and university researchers who have over the last decade made the case for phasing out kitchen knives with points, which are far and away the most common murder weapon in England and Wales.
Leader of the House.
Well, look, the issues of the knife crime epidemic is the only word we can use to describe it, are really profound, and I thank him for raising those. I will absolutely join him in supporting the work of Idris Elba, who I know recently met with the Prime Minister in Downing Street as part of the coalition to tackle knife crime. We are doing a range of things, he'll be aware. We've already banned zombie-style knives, we are banning ninja swords, we're bringing forward further measure in the forthcoming crime and policing bill, but we also have to do more for prevention, in education, in making sure we've got the Young Futures programme and youth hubs around the country so that our young people stop carrying knives in the first place.
Robbie Moore.
Madam Deputy Speaker, can I put on record my sheer admiration for a constituent of mine, a local community champion, Julie Mears, who I met 4 years ago, who wanted to make sure that we had a proper community centre in the centre of Braithwaite. And together, with her dedication on improving Braithwaite, we got there and I went to the opening of the new Keith Thompson Community Centre in Braithwaite. So could the Leader of the House join me in congratulating Julie Mears? But also, could we have a debate in government time about the importance of community hubs, community centres that play a vital role in improving society and indeed providing a great level of the ability for us all to get together in our local communities, in our constituencies?
Well, absolutely. Can I join him in congratulating Julie Mears and all of those who have ensured the community centre in his constituency and in Braithwaite? And absolutely, I think we would all like to spend a bit more time in this place celebrating volunteers like Julie and others who are the backbone of our communities and without which we wouldn't have the places that we all enjoy living and working in.
David Burton-Sampson.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Illegal e-scooters and illegal e-bikes are a menace to many of our communities, including mine in Southend West and Leigh. Just this week, Essex Police have moved from a stage of education to enforcement, and nearby Basildon Council have decided to end the trial of e-scooters in their borough. E-scooters are a good, environmentally friendly way to get around if implemented properly. Will the Leader of the House grant a debate in government time to discuss this really important issue?
The House.
Well, can I thank him for raising this? He's absolutely right that the e-scooters really can be quite a plague on many of our communities. We are going to legislate on e-scooters, ensuring they are used responsibly and safely, and we're also going to make it easier to seize the vehicles that, including e-scooters, that are ridden dangerously on the pavement or left around as well. And these measures will be coming forward soon when we'll have ample time to debate them.
Vera Hobhouse.
Madam Deputy Speaker, my Bath businesses are increasingly worried about shoplifting, but online fraud is also a huge worry, and it is surging in 2023-24. Nearly 70,000 cases of online fraud were reported, with victims losing an average of about £800. So can we have a debate in government time to really understand the extent of the problem, what the government is proposing to sort of really act against this surge, and how we can protect our constituents?
Leader of the House.
Well, absolutely. I mean, look, retail crime in the first instance was effectively decriminalised under the previous government. We're taking steps to reverse that in our crime and policing bill, but there will also be measures in that bill on online fraud as well. So she may want to look forward to when that is being introduced to the House imminently, when we'll have ample time to debate these matters.
Joe White.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Can I ask the Leader of the House what action can be taken when a previous Member of Parliament continues to promote themselves in the constituency where they lost their seat, retaining the portcolours insignia and title in their publicity?
Well, I'm really appalled to have seen the pictures that she sent me and some of the evidence that she sent me about her predecessor effectively still parading around her constituency as an MP or a shadow MP and all such things that actually don't exist, and making use of the portcullis symbol, which is absolutely against the protocol for its use. I do take this matter very seriously indeed. I know she's raised it with the House authorities and the Standards Commissioner, and I will ensure action is taken and get back to her.
Jim Shannon.
Madam Deputy Speaker, for the last 25 years, Falun Gong practitioners in China have suffered relentless persecution in the hands of the Chinese Communist Party. Reports from human rights organisations highlight that millions have been subjected to imprisonment, forced labour and torture simply for practising their faith. What is deeply troubling is the expansion of this campaign beyond China's borders. Leaked reports from China's Ministry of Public Security indicate that the regime is now escalating efforts to eliminate Falun Gong worldwide, using a network of spies, social media, disinformation and harassment of practitioners, even here in this great United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. This is not just an attack on religious freedom, but an affront to British values, democracy and the rule of law. So will the government urgently investigate and counter the influence of the Chinese Communist Party's transnational repression within our borders, including its attacks on Falun Gong and its attempts to censor Shen Yun performances? Thank you so much.
The House.
Well, as ever, the Honourable Gentleman raises a really important issue of freedom of religion and belief, in this case in China. Can I assure him and reassure him that the Chancellor and the Foreign Secretary on recent visits to China did raise human rights, did raise matters of freedom of religion or belief, and that these issues are taken very seriously by the government. But I thank him for continually raising them in this House.
Leigh Barron.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. In 2017, the police station in Corby was closed down. It was replaced by a policing hub on the second floor of a public building. That hub is now only open for 2 days per week, and those on bail are asked to take selfies to demonstrate that they're meeting their bail conditions. Frankly, that's not good enough for the people of Corby. In light of that, public perception of local policing has been shattered, and the view that local police are now somewhat remote. Would the Leader of the House support my campaign to bring back a police station and a dedicated response unit in Corby to return to true localised policing?
House.
Well, look, there were a phenomenal number of police stations closed under the previous Conservative government. We've got to be honest about that. And community policing was left on its knees. We are determined to fix that. That's why we are bringing in more neighbourhood police officers, more PCSOs, so that people can feel reassured with police out on the beat. And he may want to raise some of these issues in the forthcoming crime and policing bill readings when we get them.
It would be really helpful for remaining members if questions could be very short so that I can get you all in. Natasha Irons.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Croydon's Youth Engagement Team is a council-run service which provides critical support for young people across Croydon. This includes keeping kids away from being groomed into gangs and supporting the Youth Assembly, which gives kids a civic voice, and the Youth Hub in New Addington in my constituency. These services are now under threat because Croydon Council deem them as non-statutory and are needing to make savings. So will she allow time for a debate about the long-term funding settlements for youth services and how we can ensure that they are given the statutory protections that they need?
Leader of the House.
Well, after years of cuts and austerity, we've seen the decimation of youth services and youth hubs in many of our communities, and it's not therefore surprising that issues like knife crime and other things have also increased as a consequence. She'll know that this government is absolutely committed to prevention, education and to bringing about youth hubs in every community.
Phil Brookell.
Madam Deputy Speaker, I'd like to draw the Leader's attention to the experiences of a constituent of mine who is a victim of domestic violence. The perpetrator, who went to prison for his violent crimes, is on the joint tenancy with my constituent with the local housing association, yet my constituent has been told there's no way to remove him from the tenancy without his permission, which he is refusing to provide. Will the Leader set aside government time for a debate to discuss this extremely concerning matter so that victims of domestic violence, such as my constituent, will not be put through further trauma?
Leader of the House.
Well, I'm really sorry to hear about this case, but I do want to assure him and his constituent and other survivors of domestic abuse that we do and we will be strengthening the rights and protections available for women in cohabiting couples, and this will include the issues around joint tenancies to remain in their home, and I look forward to letting you know when that's coming forward.
Rachel Blake.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Cultural and community institutions in the heart of central London face an uncertain future. The Jubilee Hall Gym, the YMCA Central and the Prince Charles Cinema all have uncertain futures because of the complex property ownership structures in which they exist. The YMCA Central faces closure tomorrow. Can the Leader of the House support me with my call to meet the landlord so we can come together for a sustainable long-term future for this institution?
Yes.
Well, she's absolutely right, and we need to put more powers back in the hands of local communities and local government to ensure the long-term future of community assets like the one she describes.
John Pearce.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Will the Leader of the House join me in congratulating Sam Elliott, a 16-year-old from Buxton in my High Peak constituency, who has run a marathon across the month of January to raise important money for Prostate Cancer UK. Prostate cancer is the most common cancer in men. Will the Leader of the House join me in encouraging all men to check their risk on the Prostate Cancer UK website? It will take 30 seconds, but it could save their lives. And will she support me in considering a debate on tackling this most important risk to men's health?
Leader of the House.
Well, absolutely. I'm delighted to join him in congratulating Sam Elliott, who's run a marathon across the month of January to highlight the issues of prostate cancer. He's absolutely right. Early diagnosis, early screening could save many, many lives, and it's vital, as this government intends to do, that we do get more early diagnosis of this important cancer.
Catherine Fuchs.
Madam Deputy Speaker. Inglis Bridge in Monmouth is closed, and it has been since September. It's a 1-mile detour for the children going to school at the Church in Wales Osbaston School, and as the Leader of the House will know, it's really difficult getting ready for school and getting kids, prams, bikes out the door and going 1 mile along narrow pavements around Monmouth. It's also really difficult for those in wheelchairs to access green space from Osbaston onto Vauxhall Fields whilst this bridge is closed. Will the Leader of the House support my request to the MOD, who own the bridge, to provide the funding to refurbish and reopen the bridge as soon as possible?
Yeah. Well, she rightly highlights how important this bridge is to her community, because when it's closed, it's causing huge disruption to many of her constituency. I know she's been in touch with defence ministers about this matter, and I will follow that up for her after today so that we can get this bridge in Monmouthshire open as soon as possible.
Chris Ward.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Last week, I visited local sixth form college in Brighton, and one of the first questions they asked me was, when will this House vote on votes at 16? Now, I did my best, Madam Deputy Speaker, told them we had a manifesto commitment and that I hoped it would be later this year. But I wonder, can the Leader of the House do one better and confirm for me what the right answer is and when we'll have a vote in this House?
Well, I know this is an issue close to his heart as well, something that he strongly supports, as I do. I think votes at 16 was one of a really important measure in our manifesto. He's right to say it was in our manifesto. He will know it's not been identified in a bill in this session, but I hope that in probably the next session, an elections bill which includes votes at 16 will be forthcoming, and we will all get a chance to vote for it, as I know he and I both will.
Sarah Russell.
Thank you. My constituent Alison Parr has had the most appalling time trying to obtain free prescriptions on the NHS, to which her profoundly disabled daughter Ruby is perfectly entitled. Please can we have a debate on government time about how the NHS and all public services can be made fully responsive to the needs of disabled people? Thank you.
Leader of the House.
Well, can I congratulate the Honourable Lady, because I think she's held in her constituency more Change NHS consultations than any other member across this House, and I congratulate her for that. And as a result of the meetings that she's been holding, she's raised the important issue of free prescriptions, and I will certainly raise those with the Minister and make sure she gets a full response.
Ewan Steinbeck.
Deputy Speaker, Dates and Mates are a fantastic charity that operate across Scotland, including Falkirk. They provide hundreds of events every year which offer friendship and opportunities for adults with learning disabilities. The real asset of the charity is their workforce, including Falkirk Director John Clark. John started as a service user with Dates and Mates, is now the Falkirk Director. 40% of the workforce of Dates and Mates are adults with learning disabilities. When I met with John, he spoke to me about the challenges adults with learning disabilities find in the workplace. From interviews to starting a new job, even those with years of expertise like John often struggle to be taken seriously and are deprived of suitable opportunities. Could the leaders support me in securing a debate on government time and what the government could do to level the playing field for adults with learning disabilities in the workplace?
Leader of the House.
Well, can I join him in thanking John Clark for all the work he's done over the years in raising awareness of these issues through Dates and Mates, which I think is a great name for an organisation. He will know that we are actively encouraging employers to create disability inclusive workplaces, and I will ensure that he and the rest of the House are kept up to date with these matters.
Jo Platt.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Leigh and Atherton, though part of Greater Manchester, are also close neighbours to Warrington and St Helens. The road network designed around our factories and mills now struggle with the increasing traffic and congestion. So will the Leader of the House commit to hold a debate alongside our Cheshire and Merseyside neighbours to improve public transport and connectivity in these areas?
Leader of the House.
Well, as a close neighbour of hers as well, and my husband works in Warrington, so does use these roads regularly, you know, I will share her frustration that the road networks in the northwest and around our region and across many parts of the north of England as well are in a poor state and are not sufficient for the capacity that they now need. So I will ensure that the Minister has heard her plea today, and I think this would make a very good topic for a debate.
Tom Rutland.
Deputy Speaker, my constituents in East Worthing and Shoreham and all of those served by Southern Water are facing a 47% increase to their bills after years of mismanagement by both the company and previous government. Can the Leader of the House assure me that the government will ensure that the additional money that my constituents will be paying will be put into fixing our broken water system and not into the pockets of executives and shareholders?
Well, water customers in his constituency and in many others have been left to pay the price of many years of Conservative failure, who allowed water companies to spend billions of pounds on bonuses and shareholder payouts instead of investing in our crumbling infrastructure. I can assure him that all the money raised from increased water bills will go to water infrastructure.
Patricia Ferguson.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Yesterday's meeting of the Scottish Affairs Committee took some very interesting and informative evidence from representatives of the space industry in the UK. Launch of a first commercial space rocket in Saxavord in Shetland is likely to take place before the end of the year, and the industry has great commercial benefits potentially for the UK, and also is very important in terms of our integrity as a sovereign nation. One of the key asks of the representatives we spoke to was that there should be a Minister for Space, someone who could help them to navigate the various jurisdictions they have to speak to, cut through the number of local authorities and other authorities that they have to deal with, and simply be a champion for their industry. I wonder if this is something that my honourable friend might raise in government.
Yeah. Well, can I thank her for that? She's absolutely right. Space has transformed in strategic importance over the last decade. The Minister for Science, Research and Innovation has a responsibility for coordinating space policy right across government, and I know that he will be putting rocket boosters under this policy area in the future.
Chris MacDonald.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Stockton is rightly famed for our high street, the widest in Britain, with amazing independent stores such as Chic and Crafty, Regency Records and the Book Dragon, supported by our Business Improvement District. Will my right honourable friend join me in commending Stockton Borough Council for their investment in a new park and health diagnostic centre in Stockton, road improvements in Norton and £20 million for Billingham Town Centre, all of which will benefit from this government's commitment to cracking down on retail crime and investing in Cleveland Police? And will she also find time in the government's time for a debate on High Street renewal?
Well, look, not to miss an opportunity for another pun, I know that Stockton High Street is known far and wide, has a reputation for what it offers. But look, he's absolutely right to raise these issues, and I'm glad to hear that Stockton is getting the investment in its town centre that it so desperately needs.
And I thank the Leader of the House for those responses.